Hi, I'm going to be talking about My Cat Yugoslavia by Patjim Statovci. This is a novel written in 2017. It wasn't life-changing for me. I finished it 2 days ago. I read it in about 4 days, but I appreciated the intergenerational narrative weaving. It's a mother and a son, but taken from her childhood to it's her childhood plus then him in his younger life, university era. It reminded me of Middlesex by Jeffrey Eugenides. And what I'm speaking right now, I'm also going to post a link so that you can read along and look at what I've said. So I also loved the magical realism of having a human-like anthropomorphic cat character. I love when projection through animals is talked about. I think having pets is like playing with dolls in the way that people can create stories about who these animals are. And they're talking about themselves and the kind of psychic balance that they find in having this pet. Just from information on who I am and my literary tastes, I recently re-listened on audiobook to Parable of the Sower by Octavia Butler. For me, that book really shifted the way I thought about the future and California, what social groups and community can be. It's about spirituality and just existing when you're in doomsday, essentially. I don't often read novels, but every time I do, I'm surprised anew by how detail-heavy and intimate they can be. I love how personal things that are usually unsaid but widely felt and thought are written about with understanding, taken out of the context of these feelings of shame and fear that come with secrets. Like a novel can create that distance and say, this is how someone else feels. And I think that distance and objectivity, that third person stance, can be freeing. That feelings are more objects, or they're more objects than something that's felt personally. So reading this so the way I'm going to talk about this book is I'm just going to talk about what I noted, right? So I'm not going to go bit by bit. It's not a summary. It's just what I wrote about in my journal, in my notes when reading this. So this book made me think about how it's not plain delicateness that sensitive people need, but matched sensitivity and careful attention. So writers aren't necessarily more delicate people, but I think that they are more observant. Knowing and being friends with writers is scary to me because being known and understood in ways that you yourself don't understand or accept, that's a threat to your reality and the sense of control you have over how people interact with you. Reading novels makes me feel like somebody could already know my secrets and tell them without my permission. Anyway, I really liked so I'm going to read a passage. I really liked it because it felt very blunt, and it's in a confrontational voice, and it's a section about assimilation and being culturally other, being harassed and assaulted by people around you for being different. And the main character, Patjim, his family is from Kosovo and now lives in Finland. This is an immigrant narrative. So I'm going to read a large section to show you what some of the book is like. Here, Patjim is reflecting on what being in university is like, just the educational setting. And it starts with him recounting what his father said about how to relate to Finnish people. The second paragraph is Patjim speaking for himself. So this is page 32 through 34, starting on the second paragraph on page 32. And just a note that the word rote means mechanical or habitual repetition of something to be learned. So this is his father. He says, "Don't do your work too well, only to notice that it won't lead to anything. Why is it so important to get good grades, to sit up night after night learning things by rote, things that are of no use whatsoever? Is there sense in that? Sitting up at 2 a.m, your eyes swollen from your reading lamp, giving yourself headaches and winding yourself into a fit of rage and tears at such a young age, just because you can't remember words in a foreign language, the names of plants and birds and trees, dates, turning points, historical figures, equations, conjugations, eras, genres, terms for parts of the heart, the lungs, the kidneys, the bowels? I'll only tell you this once, never try to be better than them." So this is now Patjim speaking. "I didn't get to know anyone and didn't have a single friend. I did odd work in shops for a maintenance company, cleaning hospitals and delivering the mail. The chit-chat I occasionally picked up in the university corridors sounded meaningless. Everyone was talking about student loans and the cost of food and rent and badly paid jobs, income levels that were too low, dilapidated student housing, the dreary program of events at student parties. I couldn't stand it. Each student was a clone of the next. Their lives were one way, mine was another, and their conversation was so painfully boring that I had no desire to spend time with them. Don't people in this country understand how desperate life is for the majority of the world, that people die every single day, and that they are thrashed with leather whips and made to eat rat poison, that bandits force their way into their homes, desecrate, steal, or burn their possessions, and cart the victims off to dark cells or work camps where they spend such a long time that they forget where they have come from? I treated them with disdain, contempt. I despised their lifestyles, their choices, their problems. I rolled my eyes at them, openly loathed their public discourse, and lauded at their books they wrote. For what did they know about real life and real suffering? Absolutely nothing. They even asked me about it. When are immigrants going to get off their asses and do something? When are they going to stop shafting the welfare system, lazing about and harassing women? Sure, they're not all the same. Like you, I mean, you're an exception. You're just the kind of immigrant we welcome here. But most of them. And I said, it's because of people like that the world is becoming ill. It keeps coughing, won't stop, because it's got a carbon monoxide poisoning from the filth you churn out. Imagine having to abandon your family, having to witness your loved ones die in an explosion, or imagine being so desperate that you turn to God that you don't believe in Him. You would, don't say otherwise. And don't interrupt me. Tell me, what would you do if you were forced to move to a country that despises your faith and you'd never be able to return home again? If you had to learn a foreign language, taught in a foreign language, how quickly do you think you'd be able to land a customer service job? No, don't answer that, because I never want to hear your voice again. Don't ever speak to me. This is it. I wanted to push them, grab them by the hair, and smash their heads against the wall or the table, push them into a revolving door or under a car, run a cheese grater down their sickening faces. The worst of it was that I started thinking the same things as they did. I wondered what job I might be doing, how much work I could do, how long it would take for my career to pick up. I wondered what grade I'd get for my thesis. I lost sleep wondering whether it would make more sense to work for a few years than go back to my studies. And I wondered whether I should take out my student loan immediately and buy an apartment there and then, or whether I should wait until I'd found someone with whom to share the expenses. That's the end of the passage. So I relate to these feelings of hatred and being incredulous, like not being able to believe or accept that, just thinking that someone else's concerns are petty. I feel like it's a trauma response. It's a way of just dealing with alienation. I think when your identity and your family members become refugees and, regularly fear for their lives, I think that alienation is a really disturbing psychological phenomenon. And I think this account is thorough in in describing how that manifests in the education setting. So moving on, another thing I noted while reading this bit of wisdom that is presented by the main character's father, and it's said with sure confidence, right, just certainty. But this character, Bakim's father, is not flawless. He's not a hero. He's not someone who I would want to imitate. So what I mark as a valuable insight, I take it with a grain of salt, and, it makes me think of just, it complicated my idea of learning, learning from someone who otherwise you wouldn't want to learn from, but you still, have found this bit of value, and, you don't want to give it up, but you have to hold with that information, more information. Like, it's not simple. So the claim that he makes is money leads to envy leads to lies, and lies lead to deviousness, which in turn leads to violence and death. And this quote made me think of envy and jealousy and how it's normalized. Just, seeing someone else having their day and wishing, wanting something about that for yourself. And I think it's a very normalized thing that people do. I don't know if it comes naturally to humans. Maybe it does. But it's a kind of phenomenon, I think. It's something that people tend to do. And, breaking it down in this way, like, locating how lies factor into deviousness, and deviousness into violence and death. I'm going to read it again. Money leads to envy leads to lies, and lies lead to deviousness, which in turn leads to violence and death. And I'm not sure about this. I think maybe lies lead to envy instead of the other way around. But, I love seeing a simple, couple of sentences and, questioning its truth. You can say something with confidence, but, when you poke it or try to unpack it, it might not remain solid. And I think that, this book made me think about that. The last thing I wanted to talk about, I don't have a page reference for this, but while reading, I thought about fate and the phrase tempting fate. Bakim's story involves seduction and sexuality and romance, and I wonder what it means to pursue the end of a story. I assume that this character, Bakim, has a life beyond where this book ends. It doesn't end with the end of his life, but it does end with, there's some ending of the stories of the two main characters, Bakim's mother and himself. It ends in an understanding of both of their stories separately. Both of their stories come to an ending, and I think, putting them together, you have their two endings side by side, and that is kind of the fate. The story is the fate, and I wonder what it would mean to tempt the story, to tempt fate. to tempt and understanding. And I wonder if fate itself is tempting. Those are my musings. All right, well, that's all. I hope you enjoyed this. Goodbye.